We have to be able to adapt and be flexible because that is life. You want to make sure that you put yourself in a position that you can be successful, right? With the uncontrollables. The other pitcher's dealing with the same. So how can you better yourself for your team? You see these pitchers and players out there being tough, and you have to do the same. Welcome to the Weekly Dose. My name is Jamie Southern, and we are going to continue for April to talk about uncontrollables. Last week, we discussed some big ones, right? Mainly the umpires and our team making errors behind us. And this week, we are going to be talking about pain, injuries, as well as the weather. We should add in there, I just thought we should add the darn nouns that are never great for us, but we can't control those. But maybe we'll talk about those next week. The weather, right? I grew up in Fresno, California, and it would get in the summers up to 110, 112, right? The average is 105. It was so hot, and it was a dry heat. It would just sizzle your skin, like sand is like poking on it. But we continue to play, right? There's tough players out there in the country because of where you live and what you have to deal with. We moved to Texas. Texas is extremely humid in the summer. And that is a whole nother element, right? Those players are tough there. We have people in Washington, Oregon that deal with rain constantly and pitching with the ball wet. I'm now in Idaho. We have freezing temperatures, right? Or it's snowing during games and you continue to play. You guys are so tough. And it is definitely something that is not easy. Even though we do it, it's not easy. It's not enjoyable, right? Those aren't the easy games when the ball's slippery because it's wet, or we're just drenched and sweating. Our hand can't get dry enough with a rosin bag, or we're just hot and almost having like a heat stroke, right? So we've got to talk about that. I mean, that's something we can't control. Even to the point where in college, when we were playing in tournaments and on Sunday mornings, we would have the early morning game and it's freezing and I can't feel my fingers. And I'm thinking, oh, please don't tell me I'm pitching. Please don't tell me I'm pitching. And they're like, Jamie, you're pitching. I'm like, ugh, right? Because it's just not enjoyable. It's not easy. I'm constantly having my hand in my back pocket with a heat warmer to just warm up my fingers. But we have to be able to adapt and be flexible because that is life. And these college players, it's no different, right? They're playing in extreme cold in February when the season starts. And for some states, it is so hot by the end of May and beginning of June, especially Oklahoma City in June, right? It's not perfect weather. So you see these pitchers and players out there being tough, and you have to do the same. But you still can control the situation. So my mom would be the mom with the water bottle in the dugout, spraying everybody's faces, having the wet towels, right, that were in the cooler, putting around to just keep our body temperatures regulated. And that worked, right? We got through it. I know on the USA team, when we were playing in some hot temperatures in between games, we would put our feet for like 15, 30 seconds into ice water to just completely cool our body down. There's different ways to make sure that we are safe and healthy while we're playing when it's extremely hot. When it's cold, we've got to make sure, even normal temperature, pitchers in between dugout, you've got to be able to put something on your shoulder, like keep a jacket on. Make sure that everything is staying warm, because it is very important that for injuries that you don't hurt yourself. And also just to stay loose so you can throw your maximum speed that you should be throwing for your team. I know that we were playing in Portland and it was freezing, and I had one of those back kind of heat pads, that just sticky to your skin. And I just put that over my shoulder. I kind of cut it up so it was a little bit more narrow so I could still have some heat because it was so cold and I was coming back from an injury and I just wanted to really make sure that my shoulder was just in a good position to pitch, right, in the extreme weather. So there's different things that you can do. Wet and rainy. This is hard, right? Because it can rain anywhere. And so it's very frustrating. It's harder to grip the ball. You might have to change your positioning on your fingers to get more of a grip with your seams if you don't already. Because a lot of you, when I do camps and clinics, you guys are supposed to be with your fingers right on the tips of the ball, and a lot of younger kids like to be up here. Well, there is nothing to push off and it's going to be slippery. So make sure that you can put your fingertips right on those seams to be able to push off and still have a good grip. But this is where I do not promote pitchers to be divas. I think we should work harder than anybody because we are in positions every single game to be the tough one, right? We start the play. But if you cannot throw strikes, you have to be a diva. You have to tell the umpire, it's wet. Right? Every pitch, it could be wet. Like, that's not my problem. It's delaying the game because it's like the umpire has to give me a new ball. We have to dry off this ball. Oh, well, because you're the one out there that's throwing the balls that are rolling in the dirt because you can't get a good grip on it. You have to make sure that the ball is dry. So that's like keeping it under, asking the umpire, is it okay if I just keep the ball in the glove the entire time, and just try to hide it because I don't want my hand to get wet. I don't want the ball to get wet. So that's something that your coach could maybe ask, is there any way? And they may say no. So you got to make sure that your hand is staying dry. And so you can go in to get your grip and hopefully everything is still dry. But be a diva. Morning games, right? Morning games, the outfield has that little dew on it and it's wet. Oh, well, bring a towel from the hotel, bring a towel from your thing. You want to make sure that you put yourself in a position that you can be successful, right? With the uncontrollables. The other pitcher's dealing with the same. So how can you better yourself for your team? I was talking to Teresa Wilson, and she was the coach when I was playing at Washington University. And she was talking about the other day about how Washington pitchers are just so tough. They're mentally tough because they have to deal with the weather all year long, right? And so they're not this like, I can't pitch in perfect circumstances. Like they're comfortable to be uncomfortable. And so that's what you need to strive for, right? There's something special about those pitchers because they're mentally tough, because they can find a way. Now you think about the California pitchers, right, in Huntington Beach, where the temperature is pretty perfect all year round, and they're used to it being how they want it to be. And so it is something to deal with and something to consider. So make sure that you are preparing yourself and you're ready, right? You know it's going to be cold. You know it's going to be this. So take care of your body, but also prepare to be still successful on that mound. With the weather and the rain, you may have to adjust what you call, what you throw, right? Because it may be hard to get a really good grip on that rise ball because you're underneath it and it's kind of slipping out and it's kind of staying flat. You've got to just say, okay, we can't throw rise balls. Like, it's okay to adjust. You should be good enough that you have another pitch that you can rely on, right? So that's what we have to practice. We have to practice, if I don't have my best pitch, am I still going to be effective? And if you're not, then you've got to really develop another pitch. And that goes for anything, right? If you have a great curveball and the umpire is not calling the curveball, what else do you have? That happened to us this weekend where we faced a really good pitcher, best pitcher probably in our conference. She has an extremely good curveball, but the umpire was not giving it to both sides. He didn't like the outside pitch. So she had to throw different stuff that wasn't good. That wasn't her stuff, right? And so she got taken out of the game in the third, fourth inning. So think about that, right? You got to be good and great at 2-3 things. That's your goal as a pitcher. Okay, second thing we're going to be talking about is injuries and pain, right? We can't control that. I had a long career. I pitched until I was 27 years old. And so obviously things start hurting. I am not a doctor. This is not me saying fight through things, okay? This is me saying there's a difference between I am hurt and I am injured. Okay, there is college players out there right now that are hurt. They are playing through some pain, right? We have some girls on our team. One of her, she probably has torn her meniscus. She's kind of playing through it. Doesn't hurt her, it just catches, right? But it's kind of like uncomfortable. Sometimes she kind of stumbles because her leg gives out on her, but she's fighting through. She wants to play. We need her. It's her senior year, so she's gonna go for the last month. We have another girl that had separated ribs and she's playing through it. Hurts, like I'll get out, right? But the doctor said, oh, you're not gonna get any worse. It's just a matter of pain tolerance. She's like, put me on the field. I wanna play. I have had many things that are uncomfortable. I've had kind of like a shin splint in my forearm. So the little sheet in between, there's a little tissue in between your muscle and your bone, and it becomes inflamed and it pushes the muscle away from the bone, right? That's like a shin splint. But that's what, so every time I was brushing my hip, it was like pounding. It was so painful. So sometimes you see pictures in like Google images where I have this pad on my, I taped up forearm. It's really just because I had a pad on just to help kind of hopefully like the pounding wasn't so extreme. I went through a year of my college where I was getting migraines like way too frequently. And some of you deal with this. Migraines are the worst, right? So I remember warming up for a game and I started getting the blurry vision, and I would have to tell my catcher, like, it's over here right now, so just throw the ball over here because I can't see. But I still had to warm up. I still had to be ready because I knew by the game time my blurry vision was going to be gone, right? And obviously we had another pitcher warming up just in case. But that's uncomfortable. I just wanted to go lay down. I can't see, but my team needed me, right? We have pitchers, and very, very common for your fingers to start bleeding or cracking as you're throwing so many curveballs or rise balls, and it's uncomfortable, it's bleeding, right? But you still have to go on. Those are like, I'm hurt, right? My fingers hurt. I'm not gonna hurt myself anymore, right? My forearms hurt, like, I can still pitch. It's uncomfortable. And once we got into the game, the adrenaline, right, it helps a little bit more. But then there's times when you're injured. And I've been injured. I ruptured my long head bicep tendon my freshman year in college and came back and was totally fine. I've had some nerve damage down here, just some sensitivity of just, gosh, like I can feel the tingling, right? Because I had this knot back here that just started pushing on the nerve. It was just a knot. Like I thought, well, I'm not fine. I mean, yeah, I'm sore, but well, that hurt became an injury, right? Because I just was like, okay, I just got to keep going. But you got to work out those sorenesses. You got to work out those knots. But when you are injured, right, your doctor is going to, obviously, they are the expert. Your trainers are more skilled than you are. You have to be able to listen and make that decision for yourself. And you know yourself best. You know, am I hurt or am I injured? That's mental toughness too, is knowing the difference and knowing when you should sit out and when you can push through, right? You learn that from a little kid when you fall down and you stub your knee and your parents are like, oh man, that sucks. Like, get up, you're okay. It's just a little bruise, it's a little bump, it's a little blood. Like, let's put a Band-Aid and you keep going, right? Versus you might break your arm and you got to put a cast and oh man, it's kind of going to ruin your playtime now, right? Those are the differences. But let's talk about the other end. Sometimes we are too tough and we're like, no, put me out there. And you're not going to throw well. You're not going to throw well. You are not 100% in those moments. And sometimes, I mean, I had my college coach tell me once, you know what, Jamie, your 80% is better than our 100 right now. So can you stay out here, right? You have to know that there's times to be tough, and there's times to say like, I can't do this. Like I'm hurting myself. My body is hurting because you only know you, right? And your parents will help you make those decisions as well. But sometimes you fight through it and it's not even helpful to the team. So it's honorable that you want to be tough and mentally tough, but at the same time, give your team a chance. You're also only delaying your healing to getting to 100%. Maybe you just need 1 weekend off, right? To give yourself 9-10 days before you need to practice again and then go off to another tournament, right? Be smart. Take care of your body. Pitchers throw and play year round. I did not start playing year round until I was 16 years old. So all that young growth, or that pitching that when I was younger was very seasonal. We didn't throw year long. We didn't do that. Our arms were taken care of better. You guys are almost playing every weekend. You have lessons every week, right? You're practicing on top of that. And then you have school ball, travel ball, 1 month off, going hard again. You have to be smart because what you're doing is not healthy for your arm. I will tell you that. It's not healthy. So you have to make sure that you take care of it because you see college pitchers, but you don't know if they're hurting. You wouldn't have known I'm wearing a heat pack because my shoulder is trying to come back from an injury. You didn't know that I had a knot so tightly on my shoulder that is pushing on my nerve. You don't know what these pitchers are going through, right? Because they're tough and they're pitching, but they might be going to get worked out, massages, chiropractor 3 times a week to stay healthy. So put yourself in a position that when you get to play in college, that you are healthier. You are going to withstand the non-stop season, right? Of practicing year long, August to February. You play February to May or June, and you get July off and then you start over again, right? So take care of yourself. And sometimes we don't even put ourselves, when we do fight through things, we don't put ourselves in a great position mentally, right? Because we're hurting. We're like, oh my gosh, you're doubting yourself. Your performance is not sharp, right? So you're getting hit and you're just kind of it's starting to affect how you think of yourself. Are you getting a little depressed, right? It's not fun to be injured. It's not fun to be hurt. And so thinking about all that and what it's doing to your mind, right? Especially when we want to be mentally healthy these days, and it's very important. So take care of yourself, but take care of yourself. And make sure that, it's okay to be 80% and to fight through some pain if your team needs you. That's okay. But if you're injured, then you need to kind of say, it's big girl stuff. It's big girl stuff. I tell my college girls, listen, you can be hurt. I get it. I still want to know when you're hurt. I still want to know. So I'm in this journey with you to be able to say, okay, you still going out there? How you feeling? You got that knot still? Right? Can you turn your head a little bit more? Okay, get the heat pack in between innings, right? Things like that. But at the same time, I want them to be like, Coach, I can't do this. I'm not trying to be weak. I'm not, nobody's judging you. Nobody's judging you. You're not being weak. You're being smart, right? And so that's a big girl step, is to say, oh, I got to speak up for myself because I'm not right now. And it might take me 4 days to get right. And we would rather have you 100% in 4 days than struggling for 2 weeks because you're fighting through something. Be smart. The questions you need to ask yourself is, especially for the younger girls that are trying to learn this toughness, is, am I folding too quickly? Am I not being tough, right? We played in an 8 and under tournament, my daughters, and it was so hot. They're folding quickly. Let's be real. They're not fighting the heat very well, these little girls, right? And so they're like, can I sit out? I don't want to go out there again. And so we're accommodating that. But it's that, am I tough? Am I folding too quickly? Am I smart? Am I injured? Am I hurt? Ask these questions throughout. Parents, ask them. Say hey, do you know, are you feeling hurt right now? Are you feeling injured? right? Sometimes players don't know that until they start to learn their body. That middle school, they're like, oh, this doesn't feel right. And that's when parents kind of come in and say, you know, I think this is what it is. You think this is? Are you just hurt, you know? Or, right? So it's kind of a vague topic because it's pitcher to pitcher, right? It's player to player. Everybody has different pain tolerances, and everybody's different smart, and everybody's different mentally toughness. And so parents, you know your daughter best. Pitchers, you know yourself best. So make sure that we can't control when we start to hurt. We can't control these injuries. And so you've got to make sure that you're putting yourself in the best situation for yourself and for your team, right? So tomorrow we have the workout of the week coming out. I hope this last week that you did with the umpires was helpful, because it's very true. Weekend to weekend, game to game, we have different zones. So if you didn't catch that one, make sure you head on over to the weekly dose so you can look up that workout. We give workouts every single week that help you prepare with purpose so you can be better and ready for the weekend. And it's game-like versus just going through our pitches. So be on the lookout for that. Subscribe if you haven't, because we have some great topics coming up. And I will see you guys next week.